When I was 17, or just after I was 17, I got myself involved in some trouble. I was stabbed as a result of that. Consequentially, I started, carrying weapons full time. So on one particular night, I was riding a stolen moped. I had a firearm on me, and I got stopped by CID, plainclothes police officers. I was arrested, and I went through the court system as a result of that, and then things just went from bad to worse. So I was regularly in and out of police stations. The police would regularly come into the area that we were, stop us, go through our pockets, maybe rough us up a bit, backwards and forwards. In and out of court for minor things. I mean, once the police know that you're a full-time criminal, they know almost any given time, any given day of the week, they can come and stop you and either find a weapon on you or drugs on you, or you're driving your car. It's not you haven't got a license, you haven't got insurance. It's very easy for them to come and stop and arrest you. I faced many difficulties. I think from the general culture, I guess gang culture, street culture, of my peers, or at that time I would have said my elders. What I learned from them, what I took on myself, and what I showed to the younger kids than me. The general kind of attitude that we do what we want when we want. No kind of consider or regard for authority, whether that be the police or the elders in our community. Kind of no morals. We didn't care about any of that, and that was seen as something cool. Something praiseworthy to kind of be this way, to do anything, whether it means intimidating people or hurting people. Almost a complete disregard and selfishness for anyone apart from our own selves. I grew up in Walthamstow, East London. I went to school in Chingford. In Chingford there was, or more so now, there was a big estate, Chingford Hall Estate. That's where the majority of my school, my school friends came from, and that's where the crime, as far as I was aware at that time, was kind of focused on. It was a bit of a crime hotspot for the area. Most of the guys there, drugs was the main kind of source of criminal income. Which is, naturally, these are the people that I looked up to in school. These were my, my peers, my elders. So I followed in their footsteps into the drug trade. It started off, small time kind of cannabis, and then onto the hard drugs, crack cocaine, and that was it for me mostly. So I actually exported that from Chingford Hall Estate onto a small residential area over in Walthamstow. So that's where I kind of set up my shop, and that was I controlled, with the help of a few of my associates at that time, we controlled more or less all the drugs in that little area, and that was our main source of income. Although there was robberies and violence, but I guess that's a byproduct of the drugs and the people that you're dealing with out there on the streets. But I always maintained my association and link with the people on Chingford Hall. My friends there, over the years relationships became strained. However, you still kind of have that misguided sense of loyalty. So we may not be friends, but we do business with each other. We are drug dealers, we have mutual interests. So I deal with them. Whatever trouble they get into, I get myself into by proxy. So they had this backwards and forwards beef going on with some guys from Leighton, on the other side of Walthamstow, with guys from Beaumont Estate. So it started over something relatively small and simple, but fights happen, stabbings happen, shootings happen. So it was a general backwards and forwards. A line kind of got drew in the sand, as it were, and you know, these were no-go areas. If you was from Chingford, you couldn't go here. If you was from Leighton, you couldn't go here. Or if you did, if you chose to, you was taking your life in your own hands. You know, we would have, you know, basically on site, you know, if it wasn't a fight, it would be a stabbing. If it wasn't a stabbing, it would be a shooting. So that was the general climate going on. You know, however, I thought, you know, I want to keep myself away from this. It wasn't helping me make money. So basically, I just want to, you know, have my little area and sell my drugs and, you know, kind of keep my head, you know, clear and away from all that. But of course, it doesn't work like that. You know, I had a friend of mine, you know, had a falling out with a group of guys. You know, in trying to kind of pacify the situation one day, I ended up being stabbed. You know, so as a result of that, now, you know, something what my friend had with them, now I've got with them. You know, and also, you know, my friends in Chingford Hall have got with Bowman. You know, so that would go backwards and forwards, you know, incidents, you know, we would, you know, lose one time, they would lose the other time. So on one particular day, you know, basically, you know, we bumped into each other, kind of thing, you know, wrong place, right time, whatever you want to say, our paths crossed. You know, myself and a few of my associates and my victim and a few of his associates. You know, a confrontation ensued. You know, there wasn't much talking going on. It was kind of long past the stage for talking. You know, violence broke out, and you know, in that violence, I stabbed, you know, the victim 7 times. He died on the scene as a result of those injuries. You know, I was later arrested for my part in that, and I was subsequently sentenced to life. And that happened when I was 19 years old. So, you know, I grew up in prison. Don't neglect your family. Don't neglect that support network. All those people around you who are, you know, telling you, advising you to do the right thing, who are supporting you in doing the right thing, and instead, you know, turn to those people, you know, your so-called friends who are going to promote, you know, don't worry, we'll do this, we'll, you know, sell drugs, we'll carry guns, we'll, you know, remember your family. Remember these people are there to help you. You know, and if not your family, your wider community. You know, think about, you know, what you're going to do. Don't think about the consequences that it's going to have today. Don't think about the consequences it's going to have tomorrow, but rather think about, you know, the long term. You know, think about, you know, what I do. This may be a life sentence. You know, I went to prison. You know, my parents were not young when I went to prison. You know, during my time in prison, you know, my father has, you know, he has dementia now. You know, some days he won't remember me, who I am. You know, so, you know, that was not the case before I went to prison. My mum is getting older, you know, and throughout, you know, all that, you know, they've always been there to support me, you know, but I neglected them at the time. But now, you know, being older and, you know, coming to realize what it is to be, you know, to be a man first and foremost, to be a son, to be a brother, to be, you know, an uncle, to be a man in the community, you know, means to support these and to allow myself to be supported, you know, when I need that support, and not to just ignore it and push it to one side and say, "Chuck, I'm a big man, you can't chat to me, I know what I'm doing," because, you know, ultimately these are people, not only ourselves do we hurt. I mean, I think by me getting a life sentence, I was the smallest casualty. You know, my victim's family, you know, my friends, my family, these were the real victims. My community, you know, these were the people, you know, who couldn't, you know, feel safe to walk on the street, who had to, you know, cry endless nights. You know, so I would say, think about these people. Do not neglect them. Do not neglect your community. Be a man, and being a man is not manipulating and, you know, being a leech and sucking off your community. No, rather it's putting back and standing up in your community and making people say that, no, you know, I know this man. You know, this is my son. This is, you know, my uncle. This is my friend's, you know, uncle. This is my friend's brother. You know, he means something. We need him here. You know, instead of being off, being in jail, being around the corner selling drugs, being, in the crack house or whatever the case is, you be standing up there, and the police can do what they can do, but you being in the community, you have much more effect than they can ever have. So when things go wrong, you should be there as a man, or as a woman to put things right. Your community, your family, they need a hand. You're supposed to give them that hand. It's not supposed to be someone else because you're off in prison or because you've got better things to do with your time, stealing, robbing, sleeping around the place or anything like that. No, so, before you act, think again, and think again, and think about all the people that you're going to be hurting by your actions.
إلا الله ما لنا رب